And we're back to our main topic of the day, that is raising tensions surrounding Greenland. And to talk about it, we're joined by Diane Francis, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. Good evening.
Good evening.
So what does the US need Greenland for, and does it really need it? I mean, having already a large military base there and local government, which very much encourages the American business to invest on the island.
Yeah, when you use the word need, I think it changes a little meaning when you're talking about a territory like Greenland that the United States probably correctly perceives as very strategically important, not only in terms of its own national security going forward, but in terms of space programs and all kinds of things, shipping and espionage. And so it's important for all those reasons. They want to own it so they have control over it, as opposed to the situation now where they have the rights to do this and that. But, I think they really don't want to get enmeshed in, the committee-style governance of NATO or the European Union, where you have to sit down and get permissions to do anything on a piece of territory from 12 or 15 different leaders. So I think it's a streamlining. It's an attempt to bypass complications when it comes to enacting whatever strategic initiatives they think are important to enact in Greenland. And direct ownership, of course, gives them complete control.
So you say that the US wants to avoid complications with the Europeans. Well, the Europeans are seriously afraid of America's next steps. And the question here is whether it's in the US interest to sow divisions within NATO.
Well, no, it isn't. But, I think it's overstated or overblown by some people, certainly Denmark, that, this means the end of NATO. This doesn't mean the end of NATO. This means the beginning of a conversation or a negotiation about, the rights that America may have to use, own, or control what goes on militarily in terms of Greenland. They deem it very important. It's sort of like saying, well, Hawaii's a long way away and it, hasn't always been American, so why bother? But they want it. They keep it. It's strategically important. So I think it's merely a measure of bypassing all of the complications that comes with, relying on Europe or NATO to make a decision for you. They want to be able to make a decision when they want to make a decision.
Now let me quote President Donald Trump. "We are going to do something in Greenland whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor." Now, the US, if I'm not mistaken, already has Russia as its neighbor, and during the last Putin's visit to Alaska, both leaders discussed further steps to bring the countries closer together. Has Donald Trump already forgotten about it? And there's one more question here that puzzles me. Russia has been extremely quiet about the recent tensions around Greenland. Well, it has been more than vocal about Venezuela. It says absolutely nothing about Greenland. Why? Because is it serving Moscow's interests?
I don't think Moscow considers it a territory that A, it would ever acquire, or B, that is in its strategic meets its strategic requirements. I think there's a lot of catastrophizing and pumping up of egos going on in this. To sort of say that this is do or die for NATO is silly, and for Trump to say I've got to have Greenland or all bets are off as far as, whatever anybody else, that's also silly. The point is that the U.S. already has surveillance, has bases, has permissions, can go there and get a mining license and dig for critical minerals anytime it wants to. But it has to go through a bureaucratic process. They just don't want to be bothered. He wants to be able to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. I think it's as simple as that.
Donald Trump wants to do what he wants to do, absolutely so. But are there any legal mechanisms stopping Donald Trump from doing what he wants? Can he just order the troops to attack the island in the end? I mean, that's the least probable scenarios you've already said, but...
Well, I don't know. I hope it doesn't get to loggerheads. That would be silly. Is he going to go to war with anybody over this? Of course not. Is he going to just, illegally violate Greenland's sovereignty and just plop troops down there? I don't think that's going to happen. But, I think he's going to continue the pressure on Denmark or Greenland to allow more permissions and more access to various things they want to do. And then, if they really think it's so darn important in terms of critical metals and minerals, why don't they put the money where their mouth is and go to Greenland and buy mining licenses and start to explore and develop and produce? I mean, they're free to do that, as long as they're not doing anything illegal, which wouldn't be the case. So I think it's one of those things that I think is getting a little overblown because the media is getting involved in it. And this is not an attack on NATO. That's silly.
Mm-hmm. Now, we also have a quote from Greenland's foreign minister, because you said that this pressure is put on Greenland, on Denmark as well. It seems that it's already working. The quote, from our side, it is clear that Greenland needs the US and that the US needs Greenland. That responsibility must be taken seriously. What would be wrong with us holding meetings with the US alone? So could the US try to take Greenland away from Denmark by simply courting the Greenlanders themselves and paying them large sums to change their minds?
Yeah, I think there was a number that was thrown out there by either Vance or someone early on saying, we'll pay you all $50,000 or $100,000 but the point is that there's a difference between having a relationship, a nice legal binational relationship where you do mining and you to collaborate and have military bases that pay rent for that, employ locals for that. There's a big difference between that and just saying, I want it to be part of the United States. I mean, that means that people you're taking people away from a government system, a healthcare system, a culture that they're not interested in being part of. So I think that it should really be restricted to the business of security measures and mining opportunities, and they should just sit down like grown-ups and negotiate deals. That's what I think.
Like grown-ups. Diane Francis, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much. Pleasure as always.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching and stay with us for more interviews and news here on TVP World.